You're getting by with LSR.
Work is done for the day, so now we are here for you.
Decompress, celebrate, and pat yourself on the back.
Our radio station can be your post-work treat.
This is Leeds Student Radio, filling your eardrums with what matters.
Listen live on thisislsr.com.
Or tell your smart speaker, play Leeds Student Radio.
This is the news.
Good afternoon, here are the headlines. Global oil prices have hit a 6-month high as markets react to rising tensions between the United States and Iran. Fear has increased due to the possibility of a US military strike on Iran over Tehran's nuclear program. Former Royal Andrew Mountbatten has been arrested and released on suspicion of misconduct in public office. However, the police are yet to officially name him. This marks history as Andrew is the first senior British royal to be arrested in modern times. In the Winter Olympics, Team GB have advanced into the final this weekend against Canada after beating Switzerland 8-5 in the curling competition. K-pop group Blackpink has announced the release date for their new mini-album Deadline, dropping on February 27th. And now for the weather, we are once again looking at cloudy skies and more rain. From LSR's newsroom, I'm Zainab, keeping students in the know.
Welcome to Poetry Generator. I'm your host, Henry.
I'm Thomas.
I'm Leo.
And I'm Orla.
Ooh, I love this Bach intro.
Yeah, we have a very dramatic intro today.
It's nice. It's also darker in the room than normal, I think.
Yeah, it's spooky.
Well,
Yeah, it's a bit of a gloomy start to the show, but
it's kind of a gloomy day.
no,
However,
it's
today's topic,
gloomy in a cool way, though.
that's true. And today's topic is not gloomy or boring whatsoever.
Yeah.
Who would like to introduce it? Leo, what will we be discussing today?
Latin poets, and so we're focusing on Ovid, Virgil, and a couple of the other big names.
That's right. We have... the thing is, this is such an impossible topic to cover in a single episode. So, we've narrowed it down to a couple of the key names. The most famous that people who probably are not particularly familiar with this area of poetry would still know. But if we wanted to, we could talk about an endless list. Ennius, Virgil, Lucan, Statius, Ovid, Horace, Catullus, Perseus, there's a Plotus, that's the last one. There's a million people we could talk about. But I think we decided Ovid, Virgil, and then I want to talk about two people, especially one person that are not really quite poets, but are not political or philosophical writers either, and that is Petronius and Apuleius. So these two are kind of like proto-novelists.
They're like religious writers, though, no? Like...
Both of them are pagan,
Yeah.
Paganism appears in their works, but I don't think it's like central.
Sorry.
But it's, I don't know, very cool to me to think of like examples of something that we can call a novel before the era of the novel. And that's what you get with my favorite text from this entire period, from the entire Latin period, which is the Golden Ass, which is very funny. But before we get into that, I guess we should deal with what is poetry in the more strict sense. So, who wants to talk about the key texts? Orla, Virgil, and Ovid. You're the Ovid expert, is it?
No, I'm doing Virgil today.
Okay, so who was Virgil?
So Virgil was a Roman poet, born in the Empire of Rome, but not in Rome the city, outside, like kind of more northern Italy, in Mantua, where which is where Romeo gets banished to. Yeah.
Oh, it's near Manchester, right?
And then so he grew up kind of in rural farmland, northern Italy, but moves to Rome and starts writing. He's like he's really well known for his like major poems before he wrote the Aeneid, which is like the main thing I'll talk about today, because that's his big epic poem. That's like it's kind of like a romanized version of the Odyssey and the Iliad, but in one epic poem, and it's really great. And also it was written down, unlike the Iliad and the Odyssey, so we do have the direct like Latin of it.
Right.
He also wrote like didactic farming poetry about living in the countryside and like riding your tractor and stuff like that before he did the Aeneid. So he's
a country gentleman, as they call them.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's very interesting. And I'm not familiar with. I've read the Aeneid, but I'm not familiar with his work outside of that, or I am at least only by name. But the Aeneid itself is fascinating because it's, again, as you said, about the Battle of Troy.
It starts with the timeline's really messy, but the like chronological order of things is like it's the Trojans, so the losing side. So from Homer's perspective when writing the Iliad, or from the Greek perspective, you know, the Trojans are like these second-then humans who are really barbaric, and Hector's like killing people, and Achilles has to drag him around the walls to like level that out. But then there is some like suggestion that in real life, the Romans, who we think of as the Romans, a lot of them migrated from where Troy was. So
really?
or it's like it's all based on supposed lineage.
It's funny how like it's, I don't know how that neatly that fits with the Romulus myth.
No, there's literally a family tree in the Aeneid
where
they're like, and then the kings of Alba Longa will. So you have Aeneas will go to Italy. He will marry Lavinia, and they will become the Latins, and then they will do this, and then like there are a couple of kings, and then the kings go away, and then it's Romulus and Remus. Like it's that they feature in. There's a scene in Book 6 of the Aeneid where Aeneas goes to the underworld, and he gets shown this like crazy metaphysical realm of like all the future and past epic Romans. It's like crazy. It's the ghost of his dad walking him around, and it's like, so like all of the future Romans are there. Like you've got Julius Caesar and his friends are there, like the Brutus and Cassius and all of them are there. But then it's also like, the kings of Alba Longa and Romulus and Remus kind of thing. It's really cool, but it's so like fulfilling of just what the Romans think they are. Yeah,
a bit contrived.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a critical way, just they had to warp it to their own pre-existing ancestral
he was
beliefs,
paid to write it or he was commissioned to write it by Augustus, because basically Virgil lived through the end of, so Julius Caesar assassinated by the assassins, for like your Roman history run through. Julius Caesar assassinated by the assassins in 52 or no 44 BC. And then so his son or his nephew, who's like adopted, is Octavian. Octavian, involved in civil war with Mark Antony, goes through all this stuff. Like there's this big battle called the Battle of Actium in 31 BC, I think, and Octavian comes out winning that, and then he's renamed Augustus, and it's like, oh, we're in the age of peace, like now we're under the reign of Augustus, this is like the golden era. And he's like, also look how great our poetry is, and it just so happens to be like heroizing the Romans and stuff like this. So Augustus paid or commissioned Virgil to write it, and then published it after Virgil died without his permission as well, because it wasn't finished originally. But it's all about, I'm talking too long, but there's
no, you're not.
There's a lot of, the general consensus is that it's about heroizing the Romans and giving them this like epic lineage that they didn't have, and it's basically trying to be like, oh, the Greeks, they say this in the Aeneid again in the underworld, oh, the Greeks have this rich culture of like their art and their literature and their philosophy, and it's like, oh, the Romans also have a brilliantly like rich culture, but they're like warriors and battle and fighting and stuff.
That's interesting, because the another epic I know of that is appears during the Civil War is the Pharsalia by Lucan, which is about the civil war between Pompey and Caesar. And then I began looking into, I'm not familiar with the entire canon, but I started looking through all of the poems that appear during Caesar's reign in the decades following his death, and basically almost all of them are military in nature.
Yeah. No.
And like Roman poetry is so, well, at least this early empire, let's say, poetry is so overwhelmingly fixated on military and retellings of war. I thought that was interesting because that's...
Yeah, no, but it's so, like, it is what was going on with them. It was, like, literally hundreds of years of civil war. Like, before that, there was Sulla, and there was, like, other people. There was, like, literally, the civil war hadn't really, like, the Roman Republic, so up until Caesar died, it was the Republic, and it was ruled like a republic, but then Caesar kind of gave himself extra powers. But it had not been stable for like the last 200 years of it. Like, it wasn't really working.
Yeah.
And so there was constant civil war. Roman people were not doing well at all, and there was always battle around them, and people were in the army a lot. And it was also they were expanding a lot as once Augustus got in. Like, the expansion got massive, so a lot of people would live in like colonies that were just for, you know, gaining territory and for fighting and stuff. So it is like everything that they write about Rome being great for is battle stuff, because that's like...
Yeah, that's interesting. And I guess we should mention, because it kind of, I mean, it sounds a little bit like this is the only thing they talked about, but they also had basically, well, not all, basic, but almost all of the same forms that we have today. So there was satires, there was comedies, there was tragedies, there was prose poems, and there was lyrical poems. There was ones that were meant to be sung and recited. There was ones that were meant to be read and whose structure was meant to be studied. So it's a highly developed art form. It wasn't merely, you know, war chants or anything like that.
But Latin's such an interesting language as well, because it kind of is... I don't know, I did Latin last year, like just a beginner's one, and all the words you learn are like war-oriented, just by nature, it feels like. Or like, there are some really nice ones about like, yeah, the countryside, but then it's also like, you're always talking about, like, all of our activities would be like, oh, the evil king sent the slaves to the field, and there were spears everywhere, and the bad city was like overrun by the invaders. Like, it's just... all the words that, I don't know, it feels so...
That is interesting.
Sorry?
Oh, no, go on.
Wouldn't it be because, like, all art was commissioned by, or, like, backed by, obviously, the emperors and stuff? So all art would be sort of propagandistic?
Or their really rich friends, yeah. Like, there were these things called triumvirates, because in Roman politics, like, having an established kind of loyal working friendship with people was really important. It's called amicitia, and it's like, well, like amicity, which is like friend, and it's like...
So where amiable comes from?
Yeah.
Or amicable?
Yeah.
There you go.
And it's like having a specific working friendship with someone else, and so that's like benefiting you politically, and also playing into the way Roman politics works as a very like kind of pyramid structure. But so like, yeah, Augustus was backed by a really rich guy. I think Marcus Lavinius Crassus is his name, or it's one of them. But like all of these guys who Caesar, Augustus, like people that followed after them, in order for them to have like flourishing culture, they had to have a really rich friend who was like paying for the theatre to stay open and stuff like that.
Not too much different.
Isn't
today,
Augustus the king or the emperor? Or?
Yeah, he was the emperor, but he wasn't rich. He was rich, but they were all rich, so it was like an elite class. But he wasn't as rich as some of the other people, because he was from like the nobiles, which is the top elite of the Roman like class system. So he was like wealthy, but he also wasn't as... He was kind of a sickly child. He wasn't, like, people didn't think he would become the emperor, but he did.
Incredible that he did, because it's a very... I know this is a little bit off topic from the poets of this era and their work. However...
It's good context.
It is. He ended up being one of the Great Four, and he was, like, quite distantly related to Caesar himself, and sickly as you mentioned, and it's a miracle that he ascended to the throne when he was really young.
Yeah, he was like 19 at the Battle of Actium or something, which
Yeah.
was like he had 3 Roman triumphs or something by the time he was really young, which is insane. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for my first.
Yeah. Like, and at the Roman triumphs, when they have to have the person standing behind you being like, remember, you will die, like, you are only mortal. Because if you were 19 and then you had, like, conquered a bunch of worlds, you would go crazy for it.
Yeah.
It would be so much fun.
Well, I can imagine. So, okay, that's pretty relevant to Virgil's background.
Yeah. Also Ovid, though. Ovid and Virgil are contemporaries.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
And, okay, so Virgil wrote the Aeneid, and we will, I think, hear a sample from it in a bit, which should be fun. Ovid, how does he differ from Virgil, and why has he gone down as the second biggest poetic figure of the era?
Well, he's different partially in age. He's born after Julius Caesar dies, I think about a year after. And so he's a younger contemporary. But his early works are all based on love, essentially, which is obviously a departure from what we've been talking about with the farming and war that's so prevalent in all of this poetry. He's a lot of the time kind of mocking the gods in his poems, which is, I don't know if it's uncommon, but I think it's definitely an interesting choice, and he uses love and kind of human virtue to describe why the gods are kind of not pointless,
Yeah.
but
Flawed.
flawed.
You know what? I don't think that's uncommon, because
Yeah.
maybe I should say I'm a lot more familiar with Greek literature and the classics than I am with Latin, but they are not like all-powerful benevolent figures. They are meant to deify. Like, they're just they're rascals in a lot of cases, and they're flawed, and they overcome by rage, and they make mistakes, and they're
They're human. Like,
well, they're not human, they're not Titan, but they are flawed.
Anthropomorphized.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
But
So
Ovid is really cheeky. Ovid gets in
Yeah.
a lot of trouble for the way he writes. And, Augustus hated him. I think
He gets banished.
Yeah. But I think part of the, like, scorning the gods is just, like, a kind of flaunting of just, like, he's just always pushing it a bit in, right. Like, my classics teacher is like, Ovid, it's, because we were talking about the beats last week, but my classics teacher at A-level was like, Ovid's kind of the equivalent to, like, a countercultural, like, beatnik of the Roman day.
that's funny.
And I was like, I kind of do get that, yeah.
That's funny. So after the love poems on love, and which is a little bit autobiographical.
Yeah. I think there's some scholars that are kind of questioning how much of it was actually him.
Yeah.
And even if it was him writing it, whether he was kind of still stealing ideas and stories from other people. But
Sure.
he writes another really long epic poem, Metamorphoses, which is composed of 15 books, and it's somewhere in between a mythological story and a historical account of how the world has come to be as it is at that stage in time. So it covers everything from the beginning of the world up until the reign and I think death of Julius Caesar. So it goes through telling the story primarily through the myths of the Greeks and Romans.
Pretty maximalist in its scope.
Yeah, definitely. And it does it all. It's all accounts of change, metamorphosis. So,
Right. Transformation.
yeah.
Cool. Henry, do you have anything to add, or should we go ahead and listen to a reading of one of the first part of the first book of the Metamorphoses?
No, you guys are educating me, dude.
Yeah, do you find
Any
this
questions?
you find this interesting?
Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah.
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 Okay, but maybe but right before one final question before we get into the text. What is all of your experience with Latin works, and like when were you exposed to them, and what was your like natural reaction? Like, what do you think of it?
I have not read a lot of Latin work, so
Okay.
this is kind of like a little baptism for me. So I'm
Good,
just here and
good.
asking questions, you know.
Orla?
I did I did classical civilizations at A level, so we read the Aeneid there and like in depth, and I studied it and I loved it, and I do think
Oh, good.
I think it's maybe one of my favorite things I've ever read, just because it was even fun. You know when you're reading something in class like with a teacher, and it's like you read like a chapter or like a couple pages a week or something,
Yeah.
and it's so painstaking. But this was like fun. We would sit in the class and people would act it out, and it was like, oh, it's so cool. And it felt like huge, like especially because we did it right after reading the Odyssey. And I also studied Ovid when I was doing that, because we had a paper on Roman and Greek views of love and relationships. So it's kind of contrasting like Sappho and the Greek poets with Ovid, who's like,
Yeah.
Ovid's great. Yeah, we read the Ars Amatorium, which is like lessons on love kind of thing, and it's really fun. Yeah, no, it was
Cool.
good. I haven't read the Metamorphosis though. I really want to.
How long are these books?
The Aeneid is like,
Pretty long.
yeah, it's like this thick.
Yeah.
400 pages?
Yeah.
Well, not maybe not 400.
I don't know. I can Google how many lines.
It's probably 80,000 words.
Yeah, it's
Damn.
it's like a thick book. Yeah, 9,876 lines, which is, so it's like 12 big chapters of like, and it's written in like, yeah, well, you can read it in verse, translated in verse or in prose, but
Right.
the verse is good.
Or like, this is your degree, right? Like,
This was my degree last year.
okay.
I was doing classical civilizations and philosophy joint honors last year, but I dropped the classical civilizations part. But that's kind of just a testament to the fact that I was like, I like classics. Like, I do really like classics, but I like it as something that I can read and think about in my own time, because it's so personal. Whereas, like, philosophy, I think, is really fun to be taught in a university setting. But classics is like, I can watch a YouTube video from some guy who knows everything about the Romans. I can do that in my own time. I can read the Aeneid, and it's not like so detached from literature now that you don't, like, it's all about being human, a lot of it. And
Yeah,
so it
yeah.
is really like, I didn't feel like I needed to study it as much, but I can still enjoy it, and I do still enjoy it a lot.
Well, that's the. Okay, first I'll let you answer. So.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I haven't read much Latin poetry, but I'm kind of familiar with the history, and when I was little, I was very, very into all the mythology.
Oh, yeah.
And
I can kind of get that from your
Did you read the
vibe.
Percy Jackson? Percy. I mean, this
Yeah,
is
I
Greek,
mean,
but
of
the Percy
course,
Jackson books. Yeah, you did. Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely want to read the Metamorphosis from what I've been reading about Ovid, and it's similar in length. It's almost 12,000 lines across 15 books. So yeah, huge. Apparently, it's over 250 different myths. that
Yeah,
come
no,
from
Really?
this.
because
Wow.
he does
Yeah.
this. Ovid does the same thing in the Ars Amatorium, where every other line is a reference to like some obscure either historical event or myth, and you're like, you literally have to break it down and be like, okay, I have no idea what you're saying here, because how would anyone know
He's
all
just
of
showing
this?
off, isn't
Yeah,
he?
yeah,
Yeah.
but it is just like, that's his vibe. His vibe
Yeah.
is just
Yeah.
like, oh, and
But-
also I know this.
Yeah.
But you know what's interesting is there's something about ancient philosophy where it's like they built entire world systems, and there's like a maximalist scope to it, you know. And then that's kind of with German idealism too. But then now with like French philosophy and now what we have today, it's like
Yeah.
the people they don't have like that pride, the audacity to try to do that.
Yeah.
But like the idea of
like a systematic philosophy, like
yeah, and like presenting like a literary text that's gonna like explain the whole universe and all of
think-
history, like
Yeah,
It probably does come a little bit from like the means of making art. You know, a lot of the these more grand writings come from a time where it is just a select few, the powerful, that are able to do this. They're in a very different position, you know. Like you mentioned the French philosophers there, like mid 20th century existentialists. They're not necessarily kind of in the top 1%.
Well,
I mean, they
you'd be
definitely
surprised.
are
Most of them are
but-
nympho babies. But I get your point. I get your point.
But not quite in the same way, and society doesn't treat them in the same way that these
there's a lot of
Roman artists.
There's a lot of reverence for
Yeah.
art, which is fine. Okay, so personally, I read the Odyssey in school when I was 16, and I liked it, but I didn't really think much of it. And then I got into modern Victorian literature, and then I thought, well, I should go back and read the Iliad. So I did, and I liked it a lot.
Did you like the Iliad more than the Odyssey?
And I did. Well, I don't know about that. I like them both equally, let's say.
They're good back to back.
The Iliad was like, I thought, a little... Actually, they're both kind of funny. That's the thing. And then I read the Aeneid, and I'm going to be completely honest, I didn't like it as much. I'm so sorry, Orla.
Ooh.
I just thought...
There is only one joke in the Aeneid, if you were in it for the humour.
There's only one?
There's one joke.
Let's
and
hear
it's-
it. Let's hear it.
Okay.
Let's joke.
Okay, it's kind of a late joke. There's a prophecy, I think, at the end of like book 3 about how it's a really not a good joke. They're like, you will know you're at the land because the Trojans forced to flee their homeland. They're like, oh, you're gonna go conquer this place and you're gonna create Rome. And one of the things that will happen is like you guys will arrive in a land and the people there will be so hungry they will be eating their tables because and that's how you know you're in the right place. That's how you know this way you're gonna be in Rome.
Okay.
And then like
bad-
skip like no, this is the setup.
that the joke?
No, that's not the joke. This
Right,
is
right,
the
no.
set. Listen, this is the setup for the
Okay,
joke, and
okay.
then it leaves it like 3 or 4 books, and it comes back with Aeneas arriving in Italy, and he's with his son, his little boy, and they arrive in this land, and there are people eating flatbread, and the flatbread kind of it looks like a table. So the son goes, "Look, father, they are eating their tables," and everyone laughs, and that's the joke.
Nice.
That's
But
a good one.
there are-
That is a banger.
There are
actually.
funny bits. There are other funny bits. There's a really great story about someone tying a baby to a spear, throwing the spear across a river, and then the baby kind of gains like she's really fast because of what happened with
Ever
the spear.
after, she's...
Yeah, ever
Oh,
after. She's like
that's-
notoriously this tall, fast woman. Her name's
Really?
Camilla. But that bit's I don't think meant to be funny. I think it's meant to be kind of like, oh god, her origin, her crazy like X-Men origin story.
Right, right.
But it is really funny. But yeah, it's less clever maybe. But then the interpretations of the Aeneid are so wicked.
Yeah,
that-
yeah. Cool. Okay. Well, and then Ovid I read. So I read the Iliad and the Aeneid when I was like 20, and then Ovid I didn't read until I was like 24. Which is like I should also mention I read Apuleius.
What's that about?
He wrote a book called The Golden Ass, which is kind of
The Golden
a proto novel. And I want to talk about okay, we're gonna listen to the poem, and then after that, I want to discuss like the history of the novel and how like one could trace it all back to this one Roman writer who lived at the same time, that is to say the 1st century,
Yeah.
or I guess actually the 2nd century, as some of these other people that we're talking about. So maybe without further ado, we can get into it. The one recording I found of the Metamorphosis has like a really breathy voice, which I find cringy.
Is it like ASMR?
Yeah.
Ooh.
But it's a good translation, so we're gonna listen to it anyways.
I'm gonna get so cozy.
So can you just do my mic, Henry?
What?
Turn our mics off and just keep talking.
Just do the
sorry.
mic.
Metamorphoses by Ovid, Book the First, the creation of the world. Of bodies changed to various forms I sing, ye gods from whom these miracles did spring, inspire my numbers with celestial heat, till I my long laborious work complete, and add a perpetual tenor to my rhymes, deduced from nature's birth to Caesar's times. Before the seas in this terrestrial ball, and heaven's high canopy that covers all, one was the face of nature, if a face, rather rude and indigested mass, a lifeless lump unfashioned and unframed, of jarring seeds and justly chaos named. No sun was lighted up, the world to view. No moon did yet her blunted horns renew, nor was earth suspended in the sky, nor poised it on her own foundations lie, nor seas about the shores their arms had thrown, but earth and air and water were in one. Thus air was void of light, and earth unstable, and water's dark abyss unnavigable. No certain form on any was impressed. All were confused, and each disturbed the rest, for hot and cold were in one body fixed, and soft with hard and light with heavy mixed.
Reminds me of Genesis.
But God
Maybe
and nature,
that's
while
it.
they thus contend, to these intestine discords put an end. Then earth from air and seas from earth were driven, and grosser air sunk from ethereal heaven. Thus disembroiled, they take their proper place, the next of kin contiguously embrace, and foes are sundered by a larger space, and force of fire ascended first on high, and took its dwelling in the vaulted sky. Then air succeeds in lightness next to fire, whose atoms from unactive earth retire. Earth sinks beneath and draws a numerous throng of ponderous, thick, unwieldy seeds along. About her coasts unruly waters roar, and rising on a ridge insult the shore. Thus when the god, whatever god was he, had formed the whole and made the parts agree.
I want to keep going, but
What should we do?
well, first of all, turn the mics back on.
I think we're on.
Are we on? Testing. Okay.
Yeah, we're back.
We're back. I would love to. This is like an hour long.
Yeah.
And I'd love to listen to the
I
whole
don't
thing.
think that's too breathy at all. I think that's like perfect level of.
Yeah, that's not ASMR.
So
I think it could be breathier.
Yeah.
wow. Oh, that's
Maybe
okay.
next
like
week's
Sufjan
episode, I'm
Stevens.
just gonna whisper into the mic and
Yeah,
I'm gonna read
it's
a
like-
poem.
Have you seen that bit on
Like
Family?
celestial heat.
that thing on Family Guy where it's like they're making fun of like French radio.
No.
There's a guy, he's like, hey, maintenant, on peut après aller les choses que. It's really funny. Anyways, Leo has another poem to read in a little bit, so he can do it
Yeah.
really breathy if you want.
I'd
But
love to.
what were your thoughts on that? To me, that's a very beautiful translation. I love the language. I love the form, and in terms of the subject matter, it's it's a great introduction. They're painting a beautiful abstract picture of the early existence, and setting us up for a nice journey.
It's very metaphysical,
You found so? Yeah.
very magical, like
Yeah.
sort of imagery.
Yeah, I thought of Genesis, but I mean, obviously Genesis is a little more straight to the point. It's like
Yeah.
there is
Yeah.
light, there is darkness, there is animals, there's. What do you think about that? Do you like? Are you a fan of the language, Orla?
Yeah, I think one of the big things with the with the Latin poems is like similes and stuff, especially just like imagery. Everything is like a worthy of a 2-sentence long simile. Like everything you see or come up with. So I think Ovid writes really well because he's like a high status man, really well educated. Like he's a brilliant orator, or orator. I don't know. And you can kind of tell in his writing, or in this translation, it flows very well, and it's like, it's rich, and you can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works really well being spoken. It feels like a story that does need to be passed down kind of orally. It's got a little bit of like partially maybe with the reading, but like a bedtime story quality to it.
Oh yeah.
I think.
I think all myths kind of have that as well, or,
Yeah.
or anything that talks in detail about mythology does have
Yeah.
like a little soporific, like, oh, this is a cute little like story or a nursery rhyme of some sort, even though some of the ones he talks about are really messed up. There are some bad ones. A lot of the ones with women are really sad, but I don't know as much about in the Metamorphosis, but in the Ars Amatorium there are a lot of references to like myths where women just like turn into animals or creatures because they're really unhappy or really miserable.
Yeah.
But
Do we have
Oh, I have a question actually.
let's hear it, man.
Why do you think nowadays, especially in academia, have you ever seen the meme where it's like, I slaved like for 2 years and I've made like a tiny contribution to my field and to like a subset of my field even, and whereas compared to like Chad guy, I'm like, I came up with a theory of the universe when I was taking a bath, right? Why do we sort of exile sort of Roman or like philosophy of antiquity now, except for like Plato and Aristotle, which are still very seriously studied.
Yeah, but the thing is,
but like not Roman Hellenistic.
We don't. But there's tens of thousands of these guys, and only like, let's say, 1,000 of them have been remembered, and of that 1,000, a very small minority are treated seriously. The rest of them are treated as interesting time capsules.
Yeah, but like why?
There aren't as many preserved as you'd think, and a lot of people didn't know how to write, and there's a lot of confusion in who wrote what sometimes, because it was literally 2,000. But it's insane. It was 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
That someone was writing that. And it's like, we went through a whole, just like it seems like it is, they really tap into the like intuitive nature of what it is to be human, because you can have this. We go through a whole dark age in the Middle Ages where like no one really knows anything, no one's doing this kind of thinking as much. They're telling stories, but it's like I don't know, it's not in the same way. And then, you know, in the, what were we saying, like 1800s literature, they're all like John Keats loves it, they all think it's the best thing ever, and they start to like return to it, and it gets really big. But it's also, there was a period where everyone just studied everything. Like classics was one of the highest educations you could get, because it was like the ancient good text. And then that's definitely started to fade away now. That's definitely starting to fade away, especially at universities. A lot of unis don't offer classical lit or classical civilization anymore.
Yeah, it's strange to me. I don't know. I'm kind of pessimistic about British academia. And the US, I think they're cling to it a little more just because they have kind of...
But the US is also newer to doing classics, like, you know, because it's a newer country, and there's like, they have different ideas about them than the British do. Like, there are Harvard schools of thinking about the Aeneid that are different than all the others, because they don't have the impact of, like, think of literally, like, all the wars, World War II, like, that is kind of, everyone in that has some certain idea of battle in their head that comes from these Roman poems, and or that, like, upper class echelon educated people have these same kinds of ideas of, like, European dominance originates with the Romans. These pieces of text are like kind of give you permission to act, you know, obnoxiously and crazily and commit war crimes and do all these crazy things. And then the war doesn't go well for anyone. So all the British people come out of it really like kind of disillusioned, like, oh, maybe the Romans like weren't, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's interesting. Americans are definitely, it's a military society. America is a military society, and so is Rome. And I wouldn't call Britain that today. So that is possibly one connection. They also, Rome and America have kind of a more masculine character, and Britain is, I don't know if I'd call Britain feminine, but it's less masculine of a culture. Yeah. Which I'm sure I'm going to offend a lot of people saying that, but that's just my opinion.
I think it makes sense.
It's just my opinion. Yeah. But so, I mean, there obviously is cultural connections behind like why I think some Roman or Latin poetry might resonate with American academia and Americans more. But we have more to talk about than just Ovid.
You want to go into the Golden Ass?
Well, actually, wait. Before we do that, do we have? So there's as we noted, hundreds. I think you said thousands of myths briefly referenced in the similes and in the remarks made in the Metamorphosis. And we know that it begins with what? The dawn of civilization ends with Caesar.
Beginning of time.
Beginning of time, right?
Of the universe.
Right. Okay. Do we have like a key timeline of the topics it covers? Because that might be interesting to have a look at.
Actually, I don't think I do, to be honest. It goes over so much.
Yeah.
I think it's...
Because I would love to... I don't know. I'd love to compare it in my head alongside Genesis and do like a comparative thing.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I've actually found is it has an epilogue, which there's only 2 surviving Latin epics that have an epilogue. It says here.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and
how long is it?
it's very short.
Give us a read. That'd be interesting to hear.
Alright. So it goes, and now my work is done, which neither Jove, nor flame, nor sword, nor gnawing time can fade. That day which governs only my poor frame may come at will to end my unfixed life, but in my better and immortal part I shall be born beyond the lofty stars, and never will my name be washed away. Where Roman power prevails I shall be read, and so in fame and on through every age, if bards foretell the truth at all, I'll live. And so I think it probably feels very, very fitting as a climax for such an immense story. I mean, you don't get quite the same feeling if you just hear it in isolation. But I think in the context of, what was it, 12,000 lines, that definitely feels like an ending fitting for an epic, I think.
Very cool.
Yeah. If it's all right, I'd also like to...
Please.
There's a short one called Elegy 5, which is one of his early ones. And
Is Ovid an elegiac poet?
yeah, for the most part.
I love elegy.
Yes,
Yeah.
And this one I thought was just very interesting because of how similar it is to the Romantic poets. And it just sounds very, very... not necessarily modern, but... It doesn't sound modern, but it's strange to me hearing these words and knowing how long ago they were written. I'll read it quite quick because we don't have too much time left.
It's like, yo, bet Kroski. man's. Okay, no. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's all right. In summer's heat and mid-time of the day, to rest my limbs upon a bed I lay. One window shut, the other open stood, which gave such light as twinkles in a wood. Like twilight glimpse at setting of the sun, or night being past and yet not day begun. Such light to shamefast maidens must be shown, where they must sport and seem to be unknown. Then came Corinna in a long loose gown, her white neck hid with tresses hanging down, resembling fair Semiramis going to bed, or Laius a thousand wooers sped. I snatched her gown, being thin, the harm was small, yet she strived to be covered there with it, and striving thus as one that would be chaste, betrayed herself, and yielded at the last, stark naked as she stood before mine eye, not one when in her body could I spy. What arms and shoulders did I touch and see, how apt her breasts were to be pressed by me. How smooth the belly under her waist I saw, how big a leg, and what a lusty thigh. It's quite funny. To leave the rest...
How big a leg.
Yeah. To leave the rest all liked me passing well. I clinged her naked body down she fell. Judge you the rest, being tired she bade me kiss. Jove send me more such afternoons as this.
Player alert.
Exactly, yeah.
I think Ovid is so funny.
Yeah.
Actually, like, because also it's kind of coy. It's kind of like he knows he's being like
cheeky.
Yeah.
It's
just cheeky, and he's literally also in the Ars Amatorum. It's so funny because he makes all these things of like the Ars Amatorum is like giving advice to women, and he's like, oh, you should consider that bald guys might be really nice, and then it's like Ovid was like notoriously bald, kind of short, not super attractive, and it's just him being like, the best looking man, they kind of are too intense sometimes. It's not the vibe. You want a gentle lover, maybe a bit older, maybe bald.
I'm picturing like a George Costanza character, kind of. Or Larry David, like
yeah.
little lad. That's so funny.
I'd pay quite a lot to see a Larry David character, a sitcom set in Roman times.
That would be awesome,
he's
dude.
writing this.
Yeah.
He's Ovid. Oh my gosh, that would be brilliant. We gotta get on this.
We gotta pitch this
before he dies. We gotta. So, that to me, that was remarkably modern sounding.
Yeah.
I mean, it could have been Thomas Gray or Milton. Like it sounded, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
To be fair, it was
so
probably
shocking.
translated
Yeah.
by people who have more modern inclinations.
That's definitely true, and I think you can tell that there's definitely one couplet where there's just no rhyme, where it seems like there should be. So I think maybe it doesn't perfectly translate, but it's still very interesting.
Latin's really weird. You can't, like, people won't translate it the same all the time either. So, but it's such a tasteful thing to be able to have the sense of something, to, like, understand the language it was written in, and then to kind of reproduce it, giving credit to the melody or to the rhythm that the writer's built. Because you can still see it, even if it's not in the same language. You can tell what he's getting at. But then kind of, to put it in a way that still works, but says it slightly differently, is really impressive.
Yeah.
And it does suck that more people aren't doing classics and translating Latin.
Well...
but I contributed to that when I dropped.
We're very glad for that.
Shall we move on to the Golden Ass?
I guess we have to because we have 12 minutes left. All right. So, I don't know why I'm leaning forward. I haven't written anything down. So yeah, Apuleius. I was saying Apuleius my whole life.
That sounds right.
And then it's Apuleius, apparently. But doesn't matter.
You're allowed to say Roman names wrong.
I'm going to call him Apu.
Yeah.
the guy
You're
from
allowed
Simpsons.
to say it however you feel, because they're not here to correct you.
So...
Dude, is this like one of the more obscure texts from that?
Not at all. Well, I mean, it's...
Slightly.
Let me see the...
So I want you to like sell me on why I should read this. Like...
It's not...
Like Shark Tank it.
Okay, well... If we wanted to look at the core Latin texts, we would look at the Aeneid, the Metamorphosis, which we both discussed in detail. Well, not really, but kind of in detail. Then we'd look at the Carmina by Catullus, Horace's Odes, which I actually really like Horace, and he's a contemporary of Ovid and Virgil. Pharsalia, which I mentioned by Lucan, which I mentioned earlier, which is also about the Civil War. Thebaid, Miles Gloriosus, Phaedra, the Satyricon, which is I've read that as well. Actually, it's really good. It's a collection of kind of satirical, comedic prose passages, and then the Golden Ass. And the Golden Ass is kind of what have you ever written down? No one's listening to us. It doesn't matter. The Golden Ass is I believe that this is the first novel, okay?
Oh, shit.
It's about a man who is... It actually takes place in, like, this Roman province. It's like Croatia or something like that. Maybe even Greece or, like, Albania. But it's like, he's walking, and then he meets this, like, witch, and the witch is like, you're going to be cursed. And then he's like, nah, surely not. And then he keeps going, and then, lo and behold, he wakes up one day and he is cursed.
What?
And he's turned into a donkey.
Oh.
And his very first thought was...
Oh, yeah, I think
he's like, I was so overcome by distress when I noticed that I had been made into a donkey. The only reprieve, like the only relief was when I looked down and noticed that my endowment had also been like proportionally changed. And so he has like a big dick, and he liked that. But it's about his adventures around... He's trying to basically...
Was he golden?
I don't know. I guess he must be. I never really paid attention to that part of it. But he's trying the whole time to get like turned back into a human, and in the end he manages to. But it's a wacky, zany adventure, worthy of Rabelais or Cervantes. It's very funny, and it is told. Actually, it's kind of told like a nursery rhyme.
Okay.
It's slightly, and which is interesting because there's two theories as to how the modern novel came to be. One is that they came from pseudo-memoirs. So in the Enlightenment, people in Britain and France and Germany began writing memoirs. And then people began writing like fictitious memoirs. Like imagine Robinson Crusoe or Tristram Shandy. Here you have, stories that are obviously about a person who didn't really exist, telling the story of their life and their adventures.
Yeah.
And then it was thought that like that, along with like the folk stories that we would think of as being more fairy tale-esque, kind of together formed what is thought of as the modern novel. So, but this is a really good candidate for being the world's first novel, and I like it a lot. And it's very funny. It's very comedic.
So what's that makes it the first novel? Sort of like what makes a novel, whereas like the Odyssey or the Bible.
The Odyssey was spoken. The Odyssey was and it's a poem.
Yeah.
Well, if you have a prose story with different chapters and characters that are reoccurring, and you have a kind of, I'm not going to say narrative is inherent to novel, because there's obviously nowadays there's a lot of novels that don't have plots, but if you have like the reoccurring characters and there's something happening and then there's some kind of conflict and resolution, it's like a default novel, and that exists here.
Fair.
Where and it's not meant to be a retelling of a historical event, and it's not meant to be a retelling of a literal person's life or a mythology that some people may have believed to be true. It exists purely for the entertainment purely for the purpose of entertainment. So it's still didactical. It's still, the lesson is to not mess around, not to mess around with witches and everything bad, and every negative thing that happens to him in the book is like blamed on witches, like, conveniently.
I really like that.
It's really funny.
Is it written in prose, or does it have?
Yeah, it's written in prose. So it's written in like 150.
Okay.
AD. So pretty late, I guess, compared to
quite a long time after the poets we've been discussing then.
Yeah, I mean Virgil and Ovid both lived like, I don't know, whatever. Like they wrote a lot of their stuff like 50, 25, around, let's say around the year like 30 BC.
Yeah.
And then you get like a bunch of significant poets that all appear and around the year like 50 years later, around like 50 AD. Yeah. And then this guy pops up on the scene 100 years later.
The Aeneid is like 19 AD or something. It's published because it's at the end of Virgil's life.
That makes sense. It's interesting to me that if you were to go through what a lot of scholars consider to be the most significant Latin works, they basically all exist between 100 BC and 150 AD.
Yeah, no.
So it's only 250 years, and Rome lasted
arguably
1,000 years.
Roman, it's like tricky forms as well. And I don't know, you don't have much. You have like things from speeches written down a lot for the pre-Republic stuff, but most of what we know about the Republic kind of comes from later stories from this period. Yeah. And some of it, like Livy, and there are a lot of histories. There are a lot of histories of Rome.
Very nice. Considering we have 5 minutes left, Leo, do you want to read it out? Did you have one more work you wanted to read?
No, I think the
Leo,
elegy was.
Read this simile
for
me. Okay, this is my favorite simile in the Aeneid, and it really reminds me of Austin Butler in Dune 2 when he's fighting in the black and white. But this is about Achilles' son, who's Neoptolemus. He's also called Pyrrhus. And it's him during the siege of Troy. He's just this like fucked up weird little kid, and I just really like this simile. Okay. It's the bit in the italics.
Let's hear it.
Okay. As a snake raised on poison basks in the light, after a cold winter has kept him underground, venomous and swollen, now having sloughed his old skin, glistening with youth, he puffs out his breasts and slides his lubricous coils towards the sun, flicking his three-forked tongue.
That's it. But it's just really good.
Yeah, it's very nice.
It's very visceral.
It's so visceral. Like, I remember reading this in class and being like, this whole chapter 2 of the Aeneid is just the fall of Troy, and this is the part that just sticks with you. And then I remember like the next day going to see Dune 2 in the cinema and just like thinking of this simile, because it's like he has the weird black mouth in Dune 2, and he looks like
he's very
bald.
snake-like.
He looks too fresh, too young, and like he looks like a fucked up little weirdo. He's like a crazy killing machine as well, which is what this guy is. And I just love the like a snake raised on poison. And then it's so gross, and it's too slimy because it's so young.
There's actually probably quite a good chance that this kind of thing is what influenced the character design. content for that
no,
film. 'Cause-
absolutely. It's so sci-fi is so Roman. We
Yeah.
should do another thing, which is not poetry, but is just talking about how Dune and Star Wars and every sci-fi novel is based on analytic philosophy and the Romans.
Yeah.
We can
I
do
will
that.
do this, and no one else needs to come on.
Okay, that sounds fun. I'm down
That
to
sounds
listen to
fun,
that.
yeah. Oh, but next week we're doing lyricism, are we?
I think.
Okay,
Oh,
Do you
so
want to do that, like Tom Waits?
we could do that. So we're gonna take a
Yeah.
stab at the poetry within the great American songwriting tradition. So that we're gonna have to pick key people because there's so much to work with. But I suspect that we're gonna do Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
Uh,
Leonard Cohen.
Leonard Cohen.
Okay, Leonard Cohen.
Ooh.
He's Canadian, but that's fine.
Well,
I know it's the same. It's the same culture.
yeah.
Leonard Cohen.
Tom Waits.
Okay, Tom Waits, Dylan, and
I think we should just do those three. That'll be a good three to do.
you don't want to do like Frank Sinatra or any jazz stuff? Like
Yeah, but
I think
Frank
there's.
Sinatra's not really like a lyricism.
I think if we pick those three and then we can kind of
You
go
could
off on tangents.
Bring in other
Bring in other
people.
Yeah, we can bring in other
Or
people.
just talk
Actually-
about the context,
Yeah.
general vibe.
actually, okay, yeah, this is better because then we can make it a little bit. Instead of just saying American song rings, that's so big. Let's make it like the American folk tradition.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Because then, like, okay, Dylan obviously fits easily
We
within
will
that.
have Tom Waits do it. and you wanna
Cohen
do
fits
Waits.
within that,
Yeah.
and it's not in a way.
Yeah.
Waits, yeah, we could put Waits in there.
Yeah, we could put
You
Tom
can do
Waits.
whatever you want.
Yeah. We
Oh,
are
yeah.
making the rules.
Yeah.
We
For
can.
our one listener or no listeners,
You know, interestingly enough, I don't see anyone outside the studio right now.
should we just keep this?
Let's
vibe
just keep
going?
talking. Let's get okay.
They're gonna have to. Okay, I'm starting the thing about Dune and Star Wars.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
that would
Yeah,
be
go
very
on, go on,
interesting.
go on.
No, I actually
There's no
haven't
one.
prepared.
Okay, then can I ask, what's everybody reading right now?
Ooh, I'm on Thus Spoke Zarathustra.
Hey, this is
The
Leo's gonna
I
come back
don't
with
want
a,
to say what mine is now.
4chan/lit.
Leo's gonna come back with a shaved head pretty soon. Okay,
I've
no.
suddenly grown a beard. I'm talking.
Yeah,
to
yeah,
my
yeah.
nose.
He's, yeah.
Yeah.
He's or like, come on.